Welcome to our time here together today. It's very likely if you clicked on this video that you've experienced loss. Getting comfortable as you can in your seated or laying down position. I know that when I've experienced loss, I tend to forget about my physical body. So if there's anything you can do to get yourself a bit more comfortable, maybe grabbing a blanket to wrap yourself in, or a pillow, and just settling in, becoming aware of yourself in this space. When we experience a loss, we experience grief. It's easy to become dissociated from our experience, from our body. And I think this is normal and okay to a large degree, at least for a little while, but it's still a good idea to get as present and centered as we can. And we can give ourselves some slack too. If we're not really feeling very centered, if we're not really feeling okay right now, then that is okay. Being not okay is okay, and it's allowed. We can just be here in the state that we're in, and if we're grieving, we can allow for that grief here. I lost two of my very best friends in the span of about a year. And that was really hard. And of course, every loss is different. And no loss is necessarily more or less challenging. I just want you to know that in my own way, I understand. I understand the sense of anger, the questioning, and the disbelief. I remember the feeling of shock and the feeling of helplessness. I remember. And the point of being with you today isn't to tell you, like, oh, everything's gonna be okay and you're gonna be fine and it's gonna get easier over time. And, of course all of that is true to an extent, but that's not why we're here. We're not here to gloss over grief. We're not here to try to lessen loss. We're here to feel it. We're here to let it wash over us. We're here to have the thoughts and the feelings, the sense of injustice, the hollowness. We're not here to rush or hurry this process. It wouldn't work even if we tried. And we're not here to say, oh, well, now they're in heaven, or they're going to get reincarnated, or they're in their next experience on another realm or planet, and that's not what we're doing today. This is not a religious or philosophical chat that we're having right now. This is not about what happens after we die. This time here doesn't really have to do with the person who passed away at all. This is us feeling the human experience of grief. No matter what the situation, it can be extremely challenging to lose a friend or a family member, or even someone that you didn't know as well, like a coworker. It can be very frightening and jarring. And it's okay to have these feelings. It's possible to be feeling some guilt as well. That's a part of the grieving process. I went through that when I lost my 2 friends. I was thinking, why did it have to be them? And I get to go on living my life. People pass away in different ways, and when the first of my friends who passed away, it was in a car accident, and it was obviously very sudden. And the friend who passed away later that same year, it was a prolonged process of cancer. And while both were different in the way that I processed and came to the understanding and realization and eventual acceptance of their passing, they don't differ significantly in my experience of the loss. So, while I understand that my friend who had cancer had to struggle near the end of her life, and she had pain which was invariably dealt with, and my other friend passed away instantly, according to the paramedics. My first friend who passed away in the car accident didn't have to suffer, but she also didn't get the chance to say goodbye, which my second friend very much did. But since this talk is about us as the grievers, not the ones who have ended this human journey this time around, this is about our feelings and our experience. And it was very hard both times. So however you have recently lost a person or people in your life, just know that any way you're feeling, anything you wish was different, if you wish you had some time to say goodbye to them because they passed suddenly, or if they passed after a period of prolonged sickness and you wished they could have gone without that experience of struggle, it's normal to think these things and to wish things were different. Obviously, we don't get to choose the manner in which somebody that we love is going to depart this world, and I think that that can be challenging because it really reminds us that we are mortal and that we don't get to control or choose everything the way we would have it be. And the feeling of shock and anguish can be so penetrating into our whole experience, into our hearts, our minds. It can feel like the wind is completely out of our sails. And the best thing we can do is just honor that and honor that experience and honor this time. And as best as we can, to be without expectation of how this grieving process is going to move forward. For some of you listening, there are going to be matters of consequence that you have to deal with. Estates or wills or paperwork or dealing with a loved one's possessions. And for others, like the case of me with my 2 friends, I didn't have to do that. But in any case, it's always individual how you're going to feel and react and what you go through. I noticed for myself, I often felt more bad for other people. And in a way, that compounded or challenged my grieving because I kept thinking about my friends' parents because they passed in their 20s. And I kept thinking of how terrible their parents must feel. And at some points, I felt bad for feeling bad because oh, well, it's not my child that died, it's not my husband or whatever. And I think that that's kind of a part of the guilt that comes along with grief. Sort of feeling like I didn't deserve to feel as badly as I did. And maybe I was just looking for a reason to not let myself feel the depth of the grief that I was experiencing. I've lost other people in my life as well, all of my beloved grandparents. Many of my clients and 2 of my aunts. It's so interesting that it's a doorway. Death is a doorway that we all must pass through. And yet when one of us does, it can be a very deep challenge, to say the least. It's okay if we just sit with this grief. I used to, after my grandfather passed away, I felt numb for a while, and I used to try and force myself to cry because I thought that would help me move quicker through the grieving process. But as you know, going through the grieving process isn't a race. It's not a competition or something that is good if you get through it faster, because you want to just get back to feeling sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, or whatever. It's okay to feel these raw emotions, the depth of the human experience. Being human isn't always just bliss and love and light. Being on the spiritual path doesn't mean that we don't go through grief and loss and sorrow, and in fact, we probably possibly go through it in some ways deeper than others, just because we feel so much more. We're open to so much more feeling. The higher the experiences of exalted states, bliss, joy, and ecstasy, the more we're able to experience a broader range of emotions and feelings. It's sort of like as the tree grows up, it also grows deeper into the earth. And sometimes it can feel like a curse to be very sensitive and to feel things so deeply, but I wouldn't change it for the world, and I don't imagine you would either. Feeling a deep and profound sense of grief is also, I believe, a testament to the love that we share with the one or ones who have departed. And whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs may be about what happens after we pass out of this incarnation, whatever that may be, for most of us, there's a sense of that person still with us. There is that love in our heart. There is that caring, that connection. And just because that person is passed doesn't mean that that connection goes away. But not being able to interact with them in the same way on this earth, in their body, with their smile and their twinkling eyes. It's heartbreaking. It's okay to let that heartbreak, let those waves of emotion crash over us. And if it feels like there's a damming up of the emotions, a blockage, we don't have to try and force that free. Like with my grandfather, we don't have to try and make ourselves cry or force ourselves to get angry. Sometimes we're just gonna feel numb. And as we go through this grieving period that never truly ends but does transform, as we go through this, if we can be with ourselves, that's really the best medicine. And it's not a medicine that makes anything better, but it's a soothing salve for the soul. Just being with us, with our inner child who feels lost or scared or abandoned, especially if we lost someone who was nurturing to us, like a grandparent or a parent. And it's okay, just letting our inner child know that we're here, that they're not alone, and that they are allowed to and encouraged to feel these deep feelings. Letting yourself feel whatever you're feeling now, even if it's nothing. Feeling it in your mind and your body, and letting that feeling into your heart. Feeling whatever is coming up. And the grief doesn't always feel like sorrow or anguish. Sometimes the grief feels like gratitude or relief. If a person was ill for a long time before they passed, there can be a sense of great relief and release. Especially if you have a belief in the soul, knowing that the soul is now free from utilizing this body that was failing. Most of the time for me now, with the grieving of my 2 friends who passed, there is still a heaviness in my heart, but there's also such a deep joy and a real reverence for them and who they are and who they were in my life. And for the deep love and connection that we shared. All of the times I truly opened myself and truly opened my heart to these 2 friends. If it feels all right to sense into your grief and the person or people that have passed, sense in if it feels appropriate to any times you spent together, anything you shared with them. I find it comforting to know that these memories, these experiences that happened, the love that was shared is timeless. I'm going to have this forever. One of my friends who passed, the one who passed from cancer, her background was Mexican. And she used to call me mi amiga del alma, which means the friend of my soul. It really took on a new meaning after she passed. Because my belief is that we are friends of our soul. Our souls are friends, and that will continue on. Just letting yourself be in this space. With my friend who passed suddenly, I had some thoughts after she died that I wish I told her this or said that. But I have to trust that she knew how I felt and that our friendship spoke for itself. With my friend who died from cancer, I was able to express to her what she means to me, and she was able to do the same. I get reminders of my friends, and I'm not sure if it's their souls reaching out to me or some other phenomenon beyond my understanding, but each of them in their own way reaches out to me. They reach out to me in subtle signs, and a lot of the time it's in symbols. So my friend who passed in the car accident, some of her ancestry was French-Canadian, and she always really liked the symbol of the fleur-de-lis. In the couple of years after her passing, you wouldn't believe the number of times I saw the fleur-de-lis in the most unusual or unexpected situations. Before my friend died of cancer, she was initiated by some Indigenous elders in the Vancouver, Canada area who really took her as their own, and they gave her the spiritual name of Blue Butterfly Woman. After she passed, I kept seeing blue butterfly symbolism everywhere. I would see a little girl with a shirt with a blue butterfly on it. I would see another friend got a tattoo, a friend who didn't know this friend, and it was a blue butterfly. And same with those Mexican sugar skulls, like the Day of the Dead symbolism. I would see those everywhere, even if it wasn't near Dia de Muertos. I can't remember what those are called. Catarina skulls? Something. I think you know what I mean. And before my friend passed, she had got her aunt, who was coming from Mexico to visit at the hospice. She had got her aunt to bring some porcelain sort of sugar skulls. And I was given one. I think back to the times where she and I traveled together. We had the great joy and privilege of traveling for a few days in Athens, in Greece. And she showed me around where she was living in Brussels for a few days. We had a friendship that spanned for many, many years. I met her, I think it was grade 7, and she had pretty recently emigrated from Mexico. And we were both starting middle school, and we just immediately found each other. And we were friends ever since. And even though she's passed away now, I still consider her one of my very best and truest friends. it does hurt to know that I can't visit her in the physical anymore. I can't take a vacation and hear her laugh and watch her do ridiculous stuff like try and dance with guys or whatever. But it's to a point now where I can look back on these memories and feel a lot of joy and gladness that I'm able to have these beautiful memories. When I was very young, I was afraid of having people in my life die. I was afraid to get close to people, knowing that I would have to say goodbye to them. But it really is, as they say, better to love and lose than to never love at all. It is better. It doesn't mean it's not hard. When my first friend that passed away in the car accident had died, a really beneficial thing happened in that our group of friends all got together. And I think it was good for us to all be able to allow ourselves to grieve together as a community. I think it was the day after she passed. Everyone came over to my house and we all got together and we cried and we ordered food and most of us couldn't eat. And we talked about Liz. And we talked about my friend. We shared stories. We watched Disney movies that she liked. And we let the grief wash over us. We did this a few times, a few days. At one point, we did a circle where we got all of the foods that were my friend's favorite foods. We all brought them over and had a potluck lunch together and placed them on the table where we all used to hang out. And my friend had a habit of not eating every last bit that was on her plate, and so we all did the same. And the plate that we had set for her, we had a little bit left on there for her. These things we do to honor the person who passed away as well as honor ourselves by getting together in community and or being alone with what we're feeling are, I think, an essential part of the grieving experience. After my friend who passed from cancer died, it was more of an inward experience for me. She was not in the group of friends that the first girl was in, and I wasn't as close with her other friends. She had moved to Europe, and most of the friends had sort of split up from that kind of group. So that was less of a community experience of grief for me, and that was definitely very personal. I think that getting together with the group of girls was helpful in the first case especially because of the shocking and sudden nature of my friend's passing. It really felt like the rug was pulled from beneath my feet. I still remember being told over the phone by my other very good friend. I remember when she said that there'd been an accident. And I said, "Is she paralyzed? Is she in the hospital? I gotta go see her. I gotta get in the car and go." But that wasn't the case. The imprint of love of my friends is so deeply, deeply here in my heart. And the loneliness and loss that these people have left, including my grandparents, although I focused most on my friends for this talk today. The grief and the loneliness was very challenging because losing two of your best friends leaves a big hole. They say that no one person can be everything for everyone. But both of those friends that I had, I've yet to, and I guess I never will, but I've yet to fill that hole, that void of the type of friendship that I shared with them. It was very special and sacred in both cases. And so there is a degree of loneliness and a degree of longing. I long to have that level of intimacy between friends and that companionship and support and just that cohesiveness. The compatibility. There was so much compatibility between me and these friends, and the conversation flowed easy and was so supportive and beautiful. One of the journeys I've been on in this life is learning to love my inner child and be there for her. And in some ways, losing my friends has, I don't necessarily want to say forced, but it's opened the opportunity for me to be there for me in the way that I want and need. It was a blessing and a gift to have that mirror in my two friends. And no longer having that physical mirror has meant that I do have to look within more to find that level of approval and acceptance and fun and joy. I can bring that out in me and in others. And I can feel the feelings, the raw feelings that are still very much present, but that have changed, shifted. The beauty was already there. The beauty was always there within it, but I guess that the beautiful part of the grief the adaptation to the change has slowly been happening. And as that's been happening, my experience of the whole situation has also shifted. I have less experiences of that feeling in the pit of the stomach. And most of the feelings that I now have seem to be in my heart and radiating out into my arms. I feel more of a sense of warmth over time with this grief. And I personally do feel like my friends are with me on a spiritual level. I often turn to them for reassurance, and I think about the times we've had together spontaneously. And I can reflect on these experiences with joy, with peace and a deep sense of gratitude. Moving through grief is kind of like moving through water. Sometimes you're wading through gently. And you can look into the pool and see your reflection clearly. Other times the water is choppy. The waves are high. The undertow feels like it's sucking you in. And you worry that you may drown. And sometimes you even wish you would. And then the tide goes out again, and you find yourself dry, looking down at the shallow, clear pool of reflection. This is how grief has felt for me. And I think that as we go through the grieving experience, because it's really an experience more than it is a process. I know we say process, but it's an experience. As we go through the experience of grief, I think that somehow we learn to let go into the waves. We learn to surf. We learn to ride the waves of grief. And over time, I think we resist it less. And water is a powerful element. The ocean is powerful. And when we can go with the ocean instead of against it, I think we're better off. And the emotions are represented by water. And we're some high percentage of water in our bodies as well. It's so interconnected. Our tears are water. The more we can face the fear of feeling the deep feelings that come along with grief, the more we're able to be. Like we were talking about earlier, it's not about being happy or getting better or getting over this. It's about being with this. And being with us. Being with ourselves, and at times when it's appropriate, being with others as we are going through this. And if it feels right, using this as an experience to grow closer with your own self, your own soul, your own inner child. My mentor, Michael, says that grief comes from a big change. A change that we don't know what to do with. And so grief is a natural response. I remember when I was in the depths of grieving, the times that I have been, it almost feels like something's wrong. It's kind of like, because I felt so bad, I thought this must not be good. This must be unhealthy or hurting me in some way because I'm feeling so horrible. But I don't think that's the case. I don't think that grief is horrible or bad. It's hard, it's challenging, it's transformative. But it's not a negative thing. We didn't do anything bad by having this happen, by experiencing this. If anything, the fact that we're experiencing grief, even if we're feeling numb, that's still a response to grief. That's got to be better than not having any response, not caring. I think that whatever response we're having to grief is a testament, really is a testament to the love and to the ability of ourselves to let ourselves go through something that is very unpleasant. The missing of the person is one thing. The physical and visceral experience of grief, that is such a big challenge. It was for me. It can be tempting to want to jump in and help, which can be very beneficial. When my friend who passed away from cancer died, her husband wasn't eating, so I had made a meal and given it to him when I saw him. And there was something in me said, just keep making meals, just keep doing that and giving it to him. But I didn't, and I think it was probably wise that I didn't, because I could feel it was very tempting to just not let myself feel and just keep doing. And think, oh, well, he lost his wife. That's harder than losing your best friend. I need to help him, and, well, I'm able to eat a little bit, so he's worse off. I need to do something for him, and But I had to make the choice to take care of me. I took some time off of work and let myself really go through it. Go through those first few, well, there's no timeline. First few days, months, years. The first while when the waves are just pounding down on you and throwing you under and turning you around and shoving you onto the shore and then sucking you back in for more. The more we can be with ourselves in every stage of grief, the more we can be with ourselves, and that's really the name of the game when it comes to spiritual growth. How much can I be present even through the hardest of pains? And it's not a competition, it's not, oh, how present can I be, and prove to myself that I can be more present and better present. No, it's a softening. It's a softening of the rough edges. It's a softening into the grief. And knowing that there's no one way to grieve, and every person will grieve differently, and every day will be different, and every second will be different. And to accept as best we can all of it. Just to be with ourselves through it all. And when we're not being with ourselves, that's okay. We're still going through it. We're still there. There's no deviation from this path. You can't do anything wrong. You can do whatever you need to do. If you need to jump into a project for a while, or you need to go on a vacation, or you need to check yourself into a care, somewhere where you'll get care for your mental health, whatever you need to do, you can do, and there's no wrong or right answer. As you know, grief is very personal. It's something that we all will experience at some point in our lives. Most of us will experience it many times. And that is what it is. This is a part of existing here on Earth. We're born here and we live, and then we die. I do feel that having or developing beliefs that feel authentic to you, that feel truthful to you, while you're on a spiritual journey, really does help with grief, with thinking about, what happens after we die. If we have a sense of that, then it helps us to go through the process without as much of a sense of existential dread. I know when my grandparents, a couple of my grandparents passed away before I was on like more of a conscious spiritual journey. And that was really, really tough because I didn't have any framework. And all I had was sort of what I had heard from others or been programmed to think from the media or my worst fears of my own psyche. So, whatever feels authentic to you. Personally, these days, I do strongly have faith that we do have a soul, that we continue on before, during, and after death, and that our existence is timeless, that we are all one with the infinite creator. And so having that deep sense of knowing personally does really help the experience as I move through grief. And that can look different for every person. But it really comes back down to our experience of grief in this moment, being with ourselves as we go through this grief, holding our inner child close, because our inner child is probably feeling very scared. Being the adult in the room for your inner child. Even if that means you and they are hugging together. You and your inner child are hugging together. Hugging and crying, experiencing the feelings. This can physically look like giving yourself a hug. Sometimes I like to sort of put both of my hands kind of across my chest, sort of under the armpit of each side. And squeezing. And picturing my inner child there. And holding her. Sometimes I just hold her, and sometimes I might talk to her inside and say, "Dear one, I know that we've lost somebody very special. And it is very, very sad. And it's really, really hard. And I'm here with you. And you can count on me to be here as we go through this together." Thank you for listening and allowing me to share today. It's felt really good to be here with you and to share this experience of grief, knowing that we're not alone. Knowing that we all experience grief and that it's normal to do so, even if our experience means that we're not feeling anything. Every experience of grief is allowed. It's allowed here. So let's keep being with ourselves as we go through this. Let's keep honoring the love and the memory of those that we cherish who have passed. Let's keep that in our hearts as best we can as we go through this life. And let's live with gratitude for the moment and for the love that we've shared with them and that we share with all the beautiful people that are in our lives. Thanks again for joining me, and I hope you'll be with me. We can be together again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.